I would like to thank everyone and especially because people really excited about us. And so the first aspect for the recognition, because there was a lot of learning that happened when we were participating. This could be, I don't think this could be a bit because this is like a so I think that data is quite important. Second reason that I asked very was also important here. Last time we did the 2009 we were talking quite a bit on national education policy. We were talking about the draft was out and we were talking about how important the education was at that time. But then the actual report came out, the actual policy came out, and state government and central government they have prioritized their own education goals based on that. So I think so, even Tamil Nadu was April and all the new programs that are coming. So after that, for the question, this report comes with some sort of baseline for whatever improvements that you're going to do. That's why I think this is a very important aspect. So, I think most of them here are familiar about Pratham and what is the kind of module that we follow, the process that we follow. So the ASER team has been working for the past from August onwards, but before that, then from the central team in terms of working with questions to us, there have been a lot of findings that they have been across the Nadu. And so ASER, I think, tries to ask, like, there are a lot of questions that we ask, but if you have to put it in broad categories, the key questions that we try to ask on one, are children in school? And when they're in school, what is the learning that they're getting? But are they learning? Are they good in arithmetic? Are they good at mathematics? And this will be also including stronger and good. The third question is, in such school, what the facilities that are available for children that aid the education growth. So these are the three main questions that ASER seeks to answer. And the way that we do it is that it's a functional research survey, so none of the urban areas are included in it. And so we are taking samples from 11 sectors. So in the 11 sectors, there were so many districts, and Chennai is an urban district. So that's why we have picked 13 so it's a household survey, and it's also a completely volunteer-led survey, which means we don't interact, like we don't get the data from government institutions. It's a one-on-one survey where we sit down with each child and we assess each child. And also in terms of how many villages we did, so we did it across 31 districts, and each district is 30 villages. And all these 30 villages are randomly selected. And out of the 30 randomly selected, we select 20 households. And one thing that also I think children were from 3 to 60 are surveyed, but are assessed. The difference is if you go to a household and there is a child who is 4, they will be noted down in our survey, but they will not be given. Who would also actually work on. And like I said, we did the ASER survey September to November 2022. And post that, there has been a page now of each entry compiling and all the other. In Tamil Nadu, we have 27 markers to 31 districts. And So this is the case, the coverage which we're doing both all India and Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu only 31 districts, but all India is 660. And so from 31 districts, but all India is 90. And I think in terms of the number of children surveyed, which is one of the larger sample sizes in terms of survey as far as go also. About 7 lakh children all India wide, but some of them was 1,000. And yeah, so we have a component in the testing module where we go to the schools to see what is we go to the largest government private schools and the village to see what the specific is about. So in that way, we have found so this is the basic sort of coverage that we're talking about. So all the data that we've come of the base, which of course I must have to picture. So we all derived from this database. And now I had a preparation with you what are the findings of this data, of this survey. And after that, we have some discussion of what this data could be.
So, in the slide, we will enrollment level. So, 6 to 14 years children enrollment level is enrollment level of the 10 years survey was 98%. The chart government school enrollment blue color percentage, green was already on average. 2006 70% year by year government school enrollment data so 2022 government school enrollment increase 8% increase இது தமிழ்நாட்டுக்கு மட்டும் இல்ல ஆல் இந்தியா பாத்தீங்கன்னா கவர்மெண்ட் ஸ்கூலோட என்ரோல்மெண்ட் இன்க்ரீஸ் ஆயிருக்கு. இன்னொரு செகண்ட் திங் பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா நம்ம லாக்டவுன்ல நம்ம பயந்த ஒரு விஷயம் பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா நிறைய குழந்தைங்க டிராப் ஆயிருப்பாங்களோ பார்த்தோம். ஆனா நம்ம அசரோட டேட்டாஸ் எல்லாம் பார்க்கும்போது பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா அது மாதிரியான விஷயங்கள் எதுவுமே நடக்கல. தேர்ட் திங் பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா கவர்மெண்ட் ஸ்கூல்ல ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸோட அட்டெண்டன்ஸ். பிரைமரி ஸ்கூல்ஸ்ல பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா இந்த இயர் மட்டும் இல்ல லாஸ்ட் இயர்ஸ் டேட்டாஸ் எல்லாம் பார்த்துட்டு கிட்டத்தட்ட நியர்லி 90% ஆஃப் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸோட அட்டெண்டன்ஸ் இருக்கு. இந்த ஸ்லைட் யங் சில்ட்ரன்கான டேட்டா. இதுல ஏஜ் 3 and 4 கொடுத்திருக்காங்க. ஏஜ் 3 நாட் என்ரோல்டு, அங்கன்வாடிக்கும் போகல, இல்ல பிரைவேட்ல எல்கேஜி யூகேஜி சேராத பெர்சன்டேஜ் பாத்தீங்கன்னா 2018ல ஒரு 10% இருந்தது ரெட் கலர். சோ 2024 பாத்தீங்கன்னா 2% இருக்கு. இது ரொம்ப ஒரு நல்ல விஷயம். ஏஜ் 3ல அங்கன்வாடி என்ரோல்மெண்ட் பண்ண பெர்சன்டேஜ் பாத்தீங்கன்னா 61ல இருந்து 78% இன்க்ரீஸ் ஆயிருக்காங்க. நியர்லி 70% இன்க்ரீஸ் ஆயிருக்காங்க. இது ஏஜ் 3ல. இந்த பக்கம் நீங்க ஏஜ் 4 நீங்க பார்க்கலாம். சோ மீன்வைல் அந்த கிரீன் கலர் பிரைவேட் ஸ்கூலோட எல்கேஜி யூகேஜி மென்ஷன் பண்றாங்க. சோ இந்த டூலை யூஸ் பண்ணி தான் நாங்க தமிழ் வாசிப்பை நாங்க திறனாய்வு பண்ணோம். இதுல பாத்தீங்கன்னா கதை இருக்கு. இது ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் 2 லெவல் டெக்ஸ்ட் ஈக்குவலான கதை. அதுக்கப்புறம் பத்தி ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் 1 லெவல் டெக்ஸ்ட். அதுக்கப்புறம் வார்த்தை, அதுக்கப்புறம் எழுத்து, அதுக்கப்புறம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா ஆரம்ப நிலை. சோ எல்லா குழந்தையும் நாங்க பத்தியில இருந்து ஆரம்பிப்போம். நல்லா படிச்சாங்கன்னா கதைக்கு கொண்டு வருவோம். அப்படி இல்லைனாக்கா பத்தியில இருந்து வார்த்தை, வார்த்தையில இருந்து லெட்டர், லெட்டர் வாசிக்காத குழந்தைய ஆரம்ப நிலையில் பார்ப்போம். சோ ஹையஸ்ட் லெவல் மட்டும் இதுதான் நம்ம யூஸ் பண்ண டூல். இந்த ஸ்லைட்ல நம்ம லேர்னிங் லெவலோட டேட்டாஸ் பார்க்க போறோம். ரீடிங் ஸோ இந்த பக்கம் டேபிள்ல பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா ஃபிஃப்த் ஸ்டாண்டர்ட்ல ஸ்டோரி அந்த கதையை வாசிக்க தெரிஞ்சவங்களோட லெவல்ஸ் பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா 2014 இருந்து 2022 வரைக்கும் பாத்தீங்கன்னா டிக்ளைன் ஆகிட்டே இருக்கு. எஸ்பெஷலி நீங்க 18 to 22 பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா கிட்டத்தட்ட 15% வந்து டிக்ளைன் ஆகும். ஸோ இது வந்து ஆல் சில்ட்ரன் கவர்மெண்ட் பிளஸ் வந்து பிரைவேட் எல்லாத்துக்கான டேட்டாஸ். இது வந்து இந்த டிக்ளைன் வந்து ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் 3லயும் 8%, 5ல இருக்கு, 8ல இருக்கு. ஸோ பக்கத்து கிராஃப் வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா கவர்மெண்ட் பிளஸ் பிரைவேட்டாக கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. ஃபர்ஸ்ட் இங்க கிராஃப் இருக்கிறது வந்து ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் 5க்கு கவர்மெண்ட் ஸ்கூலோட டேட்டாவும் பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா ப்ளூ கலர் வந்து 2018, ரெட் வந்து 2022. ஸோ 2018ல இருந்து 22 பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா டிக்ளைன் இருக்கு கவர்மெண்ட் ஸ்கூல்லையும். அந்த டிக்ளைன் வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா பிரைவேட்லயும் நீங்க பார்க்கலாம். ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் 5க்கு 8லயும் பாத்தீங்கன்னா அந்த டிக்ளைன் ரேட் இருக்கு. சோ நம்ம ஏற்கனவே சொன்னோம் இல்லைங்களா, லாஸ்ட் இயரோட இந்த இயர்ல வந்து டிக்ளைன் ஆயிருக்குன்னு சொல்லிட்டு. இந்த டிக்ளைன் வந்து நம்ம தமிழ்நாட்டுக்கு மட்டும் இல்ல, இந்த டிக்ளைன் வந்து மற்ற ஸ்டேட்லயும் இருக்கு. 18ஓட 2020 வந்து டிக்ளைன் ஆயிருக்கு. இங்க நீங்க பாக்குறது வந்து நம்ம நெய்பரிங் ஸ்டேட்ஸ்ல பாக்குறோம். தெலுங்கானா, இது ஆல் இந்தியா, தமிழ்நாடு, இது கர்நாடகா. ஸோ மற்ற ஸ்டேட்ஸ்லயும் ப்ளூ கலர் வந்து 2018, ரெட் வந்து இந்த வருஷத்துக்கான குறிக்குது. ஸோ எல்லா ஸ்டேட்ஸ்லயும் டிக்ளைன் ஆயிருக்கு. 2018 இப்போ வந்து டிக்ளைன் ஆயிருக்கு. எஸ்பெஷலி நீங்க ஆல்ரெடி ஆவரேஜ் பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா 38 இருக்கு. ஆனா நம்ம தமிழ்நாடு வந்து 26. நம்ம இன்னமும் ஆல் இந்தியா ஆவரேஜ் கூடவே நம்ம ரொம்ப கம்மியாவே இருக்கும். இது வந்து நாங்க மேக்ஸ் யூஸ் பண்ற டெஸ்டிங் டூல். ஸோ இதுல வந்து 5 லெவல்ஸ் இருக்கு. சப்ட்ராக்ஷன் வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா நம்ம தமிழ்நாட்டுல வந்து செகண்ட் அண்ட் தேர்ட் ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் படிக்கிற குழந்தைங்க வந்து செய்யணும்னு எக்ஸ்பெக்ட் பண்றாங்க. அதுலயும் அறிமுகம் செய்யறாங்க. அதே மாதிரி டிவிஷன்ஸ் வந்து 3rd and 4th 2 டிஜிட் லெவல் கொடுக்குறோம், சிங்கிள் டிஜிட் கொடுக்குறோம். சிங்கிள் டிஜிட் பண்ணாத குழந்தைங்களை வந்து ஆரம்ப நிலையில மார்க் பண்றோம். இந்த டூல் தான் நாங்க யூஸ் பண்றோம். டிவிஷன்ல ஏதாவது ஒரு சம்ம அவங்கள செய்ய சொல்லுவோம். சப்ட்ராக்ஷன் வந்து ஏதாவது 2 செஞ்சா போதும். மேக்ஸுக்கான டேட்டா நம்ம இந்த சைட் பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் 3 and 5 எடுத்திருக்கோம். இயர் பை இயர் பண்றோம். ப்ளூ கலர் வந்து ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் 3, ரெட் கலர் வந்து ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் 5. சப்ட்ராக்ஷன் சம்ஸ் வந்து எத்தனை கரெக்டா செய்யறாங்கன்னு சொல்லியிருக்காங்க. ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் 3rd ஸ்டாண்டர்ட்ல பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா 2010ல இருந்து 12 வரைக்கும் பாத்தீங்கன்னா கிட்டத்தட்ட எனக்கு ஒரு 20% இருக்கு ஸ்லைட் growth இருந்தது. ஆனா 18 to 22 பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா டிக்ளைன் ஆயிருக்கு. இந்த டிக்ளைன் வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா 3rd ஸ்டாண்டர்ட்ல மட்டும் இல்ல, 5thலயும் அந்த டிக்ளைன் பார்க்கலாம் நீங்க. இது வந்து டிவிஷனுக்கான டேட்டாஸ். இது வந்து 6th ஸ்டாண்டர்ட்கான இது. ப்ளூ கலர் வந்து 40, ஆரஞ்சு வந்து 2018க்கான டேட்டாஸ், ரெட் வந்து இந்த 2022க்கான டேட்டாஸ். கிளீனா எல்லா டேட்ஸ்லயும் நம்ம தெரிஞ்சது என்னன்னாக்கா 2018 விட 22ல வந்து டிக்ளைன் ஆயிருக்கு டேட்டா சொல்றது. இதே போலதான் இந்த டிக்ளைன் வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா ரீடிங் போலவே மேக்ஸ்லயும் வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா எல்லா டேட்ஸ்லயும் 2018ஓட இந்த இயர் வந்து டிக்ளைன் ஆயிருக்கு. இந்த டிக்ளைன் வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா எல்லா ஸ்டேட்ஸ்லயும் நடக்குது, மற்ற ஸ்டேட்ஸ்லயும் நடந்திருக்கு, கவர்மெண்ட் பிரைவேட்லயும் டிக்ளைன் இருக்கு. முக்கியமான விஷயம் என்னன்னாக்கா பிரைமரி ரேட்ஸ்ல தான் இந்த டிக்ளைன் ரேட் வந்து அதிகமா இருக்கு. அப்பர் பிரைமரி கம்பேர் பண்ணும்போது இது வந்து இங்கிலீஷ் டூல். கேபிட்டல் லெட்டர், ஸ்மால் லெட்டர், வேர்ட்ஸ் அண்ட் சென்டென்ஸ் அங்க கேட்டிருந்தோம். ஸோ இந்த பக்கம் இருக்கிறது ஆல் சில்ட்ரன் 5th ஸ்டாண்டர்ட்கான டேட்டாஸ். ஸோ 5th ஸ்டாண்டர்ட்ல நியர்லி 25% ஆஃப் சில்ட்ரன் கேட்கும்போது இந்த சென்டென்ஸ் வாசிக்க முடியுது அவங்களால. அதே நீங்க கவர்மெண்ட் அண்ட் பிரைவேட் பார்த்தீங்கன்னாக்கா இங்க கொடுத்திருக்காங்க. கவர்மெண்ட் இங்க இருக்காங்க. இயர் 2014 வந்து 2, இது கொடுத்திருக்காங்க, பிரைவேட் கொடுத்திருக்காங்க. லாஸ்ட் இயர் கம்பேர் பண்ணும்போது போத் கவர்மெண்ட் அண்ட் பிரைவேட் வந்து டிக்ளைன் இருக்கு. மோரோவர் கவர்மெண்ட் சொல்றத விட பிரைவேட் சொல்றது வந்து இங்கிலீஷ்ல கொஞ்சம் பெட்டரா பெர்ஃபார்ம் பண்றாங்க. இது வந்து டியூஷனுக்கான டேட்டா. நம்ம தமிழ்நாட்டுல வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா பெய்ட் டியூஷன்ஸ், இதுல வந்து ஃப்ரீ டியூஷன்ஸ் வந்து நாங்க கவுண்ட் பண்ணல, வெறும் பெய்ட் டியூஷன்ஸ் மட்டும் தான் எடுத்தோம். டியூஷன்ஸ் போற எண்ணிக்கை வந்து வருஷம் கம்மியாகியே வந்து இருக்கு. 2022 வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா below 10% இருக்கு. ஸோ நம்ம நெய்பரிங் ஸ்டேட்ஸ்ல வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா கேரளால மட்டும்தான் பெய்ட் டியூஷன்ஸ் போறவங்களோட எண்ணிக்கை வந்து அதிகமா இருக்கு, 21%. ஸோ ஆல் இந்தியாவோட ஆவரேஜ் வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா நியர்லி 30% இருக்கு பெய்ட் டியூஷன்ஸ் எங்களோட பர்சன்டேஜ். இது வந்து நம்ம ஸ்கூலோட ஃபெசிலிட்டிஸ். உங்களுக்கு எல்லாருக்கும் தெரியும், நம்ம சர்வை ஃபீல்ட்ல போய் பண்ணும்போது பாத்தீங்கன்னா அந்த கிராமத்துல இருக்கிற ஒரு கவர்மெண்ட் ஸ்கூல்ல அப்சர்வ் பண்ணுவோம். அப்படி அப்சர்வ் பண்ணி கலெக்ட் பண்ண டீடைல்ஸ் தான் இது. நம்ம தமிழ்நாட்டோட இன்ஃப்ராஸ்ட்ரக்சர் வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா ஆல் இந்தியா ஆவரேஜோட பெட்டராகவே இருக்கும். அது இந்த இயர் மட்டும் இல்ல, லாஸ்ட் ஒரு 5 to 6 years பாத்தீங்கன்னா பெட்டராகவே பெர்ஃபார்ம் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. இதுல நம்ம குறிப்பா பார்க்க வேண்டியது என்னன்னாக்கா, இந்த இயர்ல யூசபிள் டாய்லெட்ஸ் பர்சன்டேஜ் வந்து 2018 கொஞ்சம் கம்மியா இருக்கு. 90%ல இருந்து 82% கம்மியா இருக்கு. பட் இருந்தாலும் ஆல் இந்தியா ஆவரேஜோட பெட்டரா இருக்கு. செகண்ட் திங் வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா கேர்ள்ஸ் யூசபிள் டாய்லெட் ரேட் வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா கம்மியா இருக்கு. 86ல இருந்து 78% கம்மியா இருக்கு. ஸோ கம்ப்யூட்டர் அவைலபிள் பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா 57ல இருந்து 48% கம்மியா இருக்கு. பிடிஆர் ரேஷியோ பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா நியர்லி 60% இருந்தது, இப்போ 45% கம்மியா இருக்கு. செகண்ட்லி நாங்க என்ன கேட்டிருந்தாங்க, ஸ்கூல்ஸ்ல வந்து எஃப்எல்என் பத்தி கேட்டிருந்தோம். ஸோ என்ன மருந்துக்கான டீச்சர்ஸ் வந்து ட்ரைனிங் எடுத்துருக்காங்க. ஏன்னா ஒரு டீச்சர் அதாவது ஸ்கூல்ஸ்ல ட்ரைனிங் எடுத்திருக்காங்கன்னு கேட்டோம். அதை நியர்லி வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்கா 90% ஆஃப் ஸ்கூல்ஸ் வந்து நாங்க எடுத்திருக்கின்ற டேட்டாஸ் கொடுத்தாங்க.
இந்த டேட்டா வந்து நம்மளோட so these are all snapshots of the total data we collected. Today specific there is also more data on so we have more data on private school versus government school education, us versus Tamil Nadu versus every other state, national average versus these data are already given before the average. But if you want more data on this, you can also contact, you can also check out the ASER official page where you receive this commentary on it and the data will be available. So before we start, small fact. So I would like to teach us your knowledge. It's all so Pratham they have a project for in the details they want it out of what in the education system security software and contribution data but we was to India in this the first ASER survey So right now it's about 17 years already.
Started from 3 years. The first one was 2004. We did one survey in 2004. Sample report. Actual assessment.
So from then on now, it's quite a data that I've got. Very particular is very style.
So, I mean, ASER actually has a huge amount of data that is collected, and you can analyze the data more and more. The broad thing I generally look at today, a lot of this, is there are some things that are, there are a few things that are repeated year after year. So you can believe that data. You can say, okay, that's the pattern that is there. When a big event like COVID happened, obviously you expect a drop. And in a few places there are drops. Like for example, I'm not so surprised when I see that 5th standard or the 3rd standard, there has been a significant drop in this is what you expect. No drop in enrollment was a surprise. So it says something about how people value education. To say that we must continue exploring. The fact that kids are moving from private schools to government schools was also not a surprise because that was something that we keep hearing from the field. But the drop in 8th standard was not significant. It is actually heartening because it says, the point is not to look at the data, there is a lot of data. So in fact, I was trying to collect some of the data and try to make sense of part of it. There are a few things which I still can't understand. But there are some things that confirm your pattern, some things that raise a lot of questions. So why do we collect data? In fact, we go back, I feel like periodically go back to why are we doing an exercise like this? India is really good at policies. We make really long, nice, detailed policies for every scenario. Our real problem is in implementation. If you look at our health policy, world's best health policies in India. If you look at the national education policy, like for example, you look at each of these documents, you will have pages and pages and pages written. Ultimately, how much of it can actually happen on the ground is often not thought. Second is Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu's syllabus is huge. Maybe that is the problem. Sometimes we should ask the question, if the policy is so detailed or the syllabus is so detailed, you are trying to say, I will teach everything possible in the world. Maybe it's not possible to execute. And what ASER is doing is, I don't know what your policy is. I'm going to go and check whether it is happening on the ground. We are supposed to have toilets for girls in every school. You will see whether there is a usable toilet. I think the fact that you're looking at usable toilets is an important concept. On the other hand, ASER also throws up one state versus another state. Telangana is doing better than Karnataka or some other state. Bihar is doing better than Tamil Nadu. That makes a lot of press noise. Is it useful noise? Is it really going to, does it give you any useful insight? I'm not very sure. And sometimes it may be a 2 percentage point difference. And you do a ranking at which point suddenly everything shows up as, oh, this is at the bottom, that is at the top. When both were at some 30%. Maybe 30% and 29%, where you're supposed to be reading. Okay, so now if you know this is at the top of what? Top of the bottom. So it really doesn't make much sense. So on the other hand, if you see certain trends and we are not able to make a movement there, I think it's a very useful thing to keep in mind. Like if I look at standard 5 reading levels. Actually, all India numbers pretty much stagnated at about 47%. From the first ASER, I think there was some error, there was some, I won't say error, but there was probably methodology difference. But by the time you come to the 2008-9 kind of numbers, from 2008-9 all the way till 2012 was 47%, 2018 50%. 3% difference is not going to be very significant. I mean, it's an important thing to look at. If it was a consistent pattern going up, I would say, okay, there's something that is improving. But 1 year you show 47, next year you show 48, then you go to 46, 50, keep bouncing back and forth. 2022, 42%. And that's a significant drop from 50%. But it is telling you that this was a result of a one-off large-scale event. Obviously, COVID lockdown must show somewhere. When it doesn't show anywhere, then something is something that we cannot have a no impact is kind of a weird situation. So I can see that. What is interesting is Tamil Nadu went from 30 to about 45, 40%, 45%. In fact, around 2016, it was very close to what was the national average. And then there was a slight decline in 2018. But you have a dramatic drop, Damal, from 40 to 25% in 2022. Now you expect a drop. Now the interesting question here is why do we have a national drop of 8% and we have a drop of 15% in Tamil Nadu? What does it tell us? Does it say this is for fifth standard reading levels? Now the question is, does this mean that our literacy skills that even though children have achieved, they are very fragile, easy to lose? Is that what we are saying? Maybe our literacy is not strong enough, even in the cases that children have learned it. Or is it something to do with the language and language is more difficult? So we can analyze this kind of, I think that when you're comparing a national trend with a state level trend, and you look at why some of these, I don't have the answers for this. But like for example, if you take standard 8, again you see the same pattern. All India, there is a 5% drop in reading levels, whereas Tamil Nadu is a 10% drop in reading levels. So that was like 8%, 15%, 5%, 10%. So even in the higher classes, something seems to be fragile about the learning. Why is it so fragile? So this is a question that needs to be probably probed a little more, right? What is very interesting here, if you go back into looking at the data more, I find that all India, and it's not just this year. If you look at earlier data, if you look at 2018 data also, it was almost equal, reading levels. And if you look at current data also, it's almost equal, though everything has decreased, it is almost equal. But if you look at Tamil Nadu, the girls' data is easily like 10%, 12% more than the boys. So, in fact, in 2018, the all India girls' data, reading levels data from the standard, if you look at Tamil Nadu reading levels, it's almost the same. But the boys is significantly lower. So when you say Tamil Nadu overall is lower, it is not lower because of everybody doing badly overall. It seems to be that the boys are doing worse. Like for example, in 2018, girls was 47%, boys was 33%. I'm not talking about a 2% difference here. 33 to 47. You're talking about a 14% difference in the same location between boys and girls. That's a massive difference. Actually, that is something I think we need to spend more time to understand why is there such a huge difference between boys and girls? Both are low. I'm not saying that suddenly the girls are much better than the national average. Say girls are almost at national average. National average is 50%, girls are 47%. Tamil Nadu boys are 33%. 2022, this number has come down from girls, it has come from 47 to 30. For boys, it has gone from 33 to 20. You again see the same difference between boys and girls, 10% drop. Okay, 10% difference between boys and girls, even in 2020. So there is something that is happening where, I mean, actually, no, one day we can say girls are doing better. But the fact that there is a significant drop in the boys, I think is something again that we need to look at. If you look at enrollment, similarly, Tamil Nadu enrollment has been very high consistently. And I think it has been steady through. And when you talk, attendance is also very good. And if you take Tamil Nadu, you're talking about 99.8% in 2022. That's like a massively good number to be happy with. But if you look at the 15-year-old, I think it's the 15, 16-year-old children. Out of school girls, all India is 8%. Out of school boys, all India is 7%. In Tamil Nadu, it's much lower. You're talking about 1% and so on. Out of school, 3 times. What is happening with the boys in Tamil Nadu, rural area, is an important, interesting question. In that age. The rest of it, you can't see the difference because almost equal. You're talking about the 15, 16. Are they getting pulled out for work? Are they just dropping out because they're not interested? The literacy levels are also low. The dropout is also higher. So I think that we need to probably just understand that data a little more. You don't see this pattern in the all India data. So in fact, I was looking at Tamil Nadu overall has been low in terms of the reading levels, in terms of the arithmetic levels. Okay, that is a question that we need to understand separately. But there are also these kinds of differences that are there. The fragility, for example, like if you look at mathematics, Tamil Nadu and all India numbers are very close to each other. So in 2012, Tamil Nadu started out lower. By 2018, the numbers have become pretty much the same, 26-28% third standard, kinetic subtraction. So I'm just looking at some numbers here. But the drop all India from 28 it went down to 26. So hardly dropped 2%. I mean, a huge COVID pandemic. 2% drop, if that didn't happen, something is wrong with the data. So you expect a 2% drop, I can't surprised that they will get 2% in math skills. On the other hand, in Tamil Nadu, you have 26% to 11% drop. It's a huge drop. You are talking about already 26% is a low number. Subtraction, only 26% more. End of the pandemic, and we're looking at 2022, you're talking about 11% more. Why such a huge drop? If you look at the higher classes, the math percentage drops have been low. It will not be as significant as the younger classes. Third standard, huge drop. But you do expect something bigger in the younger classes because you're looking at basic skills. And basic skills வந்து younger classes இப்பதான் கத்துக்குவாங்க. அதே மறந்துடுவாங்க. அதே வந்து உங்களுக்கு higher classes போறதுக்குள்ள அந்த skill has become stabilized. Like for example, division in class 8. But division of the 4th class கத்துக்குவாங்க. So you have repeated it many times. So hopefully by 8th standard you won't forget, even though you have a year, 2 years of loss. You still remember it reasonably. I think the expectation that seems to be satisfied. But overall, if you look at subtraction 2022 class 5, because the subtraction skill is a very basic skill from 3rd standard, in spite of a 2-year loss, it is very similar to an all India number. All India number is 50% now. So we can say, oh, Tamil Nadu is lower than all India. It's a big, long calculation. 20% drop, 15% down. Then there is something that we need to seriously look at. Patterns we can look at, big number changes we can look at, but I don't think we can look at it 2%, 3% and make a lot of noise. So, but broad question I will look at is, why is it that in Tamil Nadu, 3rd standard, you had 26% to 11% drop in subtraction skills, whereas all India you have 2%. Somewhere, maybe this is related to another factor that was analyzed, which I'll come to, which is tuitions. Surprisingly, Tamil Nadu, I always thought the Tamil Nadu tuition levels will be much higher. And even in the pandemic. Maybe this is paid tuition versus paid tuition. Maybe there are a lot more paid tuitions happening in Tamil Nadu. But if you're looking at the paid tuitions, all India number 2010 was 22%. Went up to 30% in 2020. This is because school nadakala, so tuition is what we heard even everywhere around us. But Tamil Nadu data is very surprising to me. 2010, 19% paid tuition. All India number was 22%. So if you say almost similar, 19.3, 22, almost like you're talking about 1-2% difference. But surprisingly, 2022, all India number is 30% going to paid tuition. 9.5% going to paid tuition in Tamil Nadu. So, paid tuition in Tamil Nadu has dropped from 20% to 10%. 9.5, we call it 10%. 20 and 10 all India 20 and 30. So all India is going that way, Tamil Nadu is going this way in tuition. Why? Is it good news or bad news of the reason? Is this good news? I don't know. For example, part of the reason I see, at least in many of the northern states, Bihar, Jharkhand, maybe the school system is so bad, the people feel that you must send them to tuition. So the tuition numbers are increasing dramatically. Like Bihar, Jharkhand, I think it's 80%, 38% tuition. So learning is not happening in school, learning is happening in the tuition class. Maybe in Tamil Nadu, infrastructure is being built, school looks nice, teachers are coming, tuition class, school. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? we have to separately understand. Pandemic, I can connect some of this to the pandemic results to some extent, saying if people feel that no need to send them to tuition classes, during pandemic, school also did have, tuition also did have. Whereas tuitions continue to have during the pandemic in most places, because paid tuition, people can take some online sessions. Wherever chance was available, school did reopen, they would open their tuition class. They say, come home and learn. All this happened. So maybe all this contributed to the improvements or less degrees in the northern states. Whereas in Tamil Nadu, maybe the fact that they were only relying on school also meant that when the pandemic schools did not function, there was no substitute. Maybe that also explains to some extent why there is a big drop. I don't know. I mean, the point is, data is actually good to understand, say there are some pointers, but I don't think ASER does why. Somewhere, a detailed study of, okay, we see this data, but why? What is the background? What is happening? First of all, what's interesting to understand is why is there such a low private tuition, paid tuition? Is it because there is a large amount of free tuition available? Or is it because people feel no need for tuition because the school system seems at least good? Because ultimately, what will a person in a village see? School teacher daily school that is not something easy to be visible. So we are the school teacher. So parent school teacher, so what do I do? I have to send them to a private class. And during the pandemic, the private class continued to have. So maybe that is what we must see. Okay, now what does this mean? Let me take, for example, English. Very interesting numbers. Because if you see government versus private, you don't see much of a difference in mathematics skills and Tamil skills, or similarly Hindi, first language. You don't see a big difference between government and private. In fact, at one point, I think Vilima had written an article also for the fact that you don't see a big difference. It looked like a 19% difference because the selection had happened. There was earlier, not the earlier. You don't see that number. But in English, you see that number stark. Like you see all India numbers, government schools are around 15 to 17%. 2016, 15%. 2022, 17%. 2026 did not drop. Surprisingly increased by 2%. Okay, English. I'm talking here about English reading to sentences. So you're talking about 15 to 17% in government, and private remained at 47%. Pre-pandemic, 47%, 2016. Post-pandemic, 47%. Nothing changed all in all. Actually, surprisingly, Tamil Nadu, government schools English percentage was 26% pre-pandemic. Post-pandemic came down by a small amount, 21%, 5% drop. Private school English was 58%. This is the only place where you see the difference between private and government. So sometimes when you say people's understanding of private schools versus government schools, English not English. Actually, the data seems to show that. Maths Tamil science private school. English English sentence fifth standard children, 58% are able to read. I mean, say English medium 58% but the government, ultimately people compare each other. So government school for a part 26% is able to read, the 58% is able to read. Drop the 58% private school dropped after the pandemic to 38%, 20% drop. So that English was not very stable. It was not very, so there is a very fragile English skill. All India did not drop, though it was lower. Tamil Nadu was higher, but it dropped from 38% in private schools. Government schools, there was a slight drop, but private schools, there was a huge drop. So, infrastructure wise, of course, Tamil Nadu has always been doing quite well. Maybe the fact that the infrastructure is much better, like easily 10% more, may also give the false impression that everything is going very well, which may also then contribute to people saying, I don't need to do anything more. See, this is a cycle. I mean, we can keep on shouting, saying that children are not reading, subtraction, people's mind is because the school is looking better, the teachers are coming. So those are things I think we can do. Right? There is a larger question about the lower learning outcomes, learning results. I somehow feel that two factors, at least the analysis, not from the data. In Tamil Nadu, we have a knee-jerk reaction to many things. When we say that learning levels are low, we say, oh, learning levels are low, let's increase the syllabus. Okay, but by increasing the syllabus continuously, our syllabus today is like probably the highest across the country. Expectation of what children must learn. Second standard will be higher than what everybody else needs to learn. 10th standard will be much higher than what everybody else needs to learn. Same with 12th standard. Every year they will be adding more and more to the syllabus. Maybe that itself is the problem. Maybe we need to do less. Maybe we are trying to do more and actually doing less. Maybe we should do less so that we can actually do what we are doing well. So cut the syllabus down. For example, while the survey said that we should focus on professional literacy, within the system, when you talk about the fact, why don't we just cut everything? Let's focus on subtraction, focus on addition, focus on basic reading. Either that we have to do all the syllabus in an activity a problem. So the fact that the syllabus burden is there, I feel takes away the focus from the essentials. I think that priority needs to change significantly. The other thing is also sometimes efficient systems. And Tamil Nadu's government system is reasonably efficient. ரொம்ப efficient இருந்தாலும் சில நேரத்துல results ரொம்ப கம்மியா வருது. They look counterintuitive. Efficiency of getting lead to low results. Because people implement whatever they want to do very efficiently. For example, இந்த data collect பண்ணி ஆகணும், நாளைக்குள்ள collect பண்ணி ஆகணும், நாளைக்குள்ள collect பண்ணணும். Teach பண்றதுக்குள்ள data collect பண்ணணும். இல்ல நான் வந்து lesson plan பண்ணி ஆகணும். So every school lesson plan பண்ணிடலாம். Now the lesson plan time, where did the time come from? It came from the time to teach. It came, like for example, I must finish the syllabus, a whole bunch of tracking systems are given, I must enter all this stuff in my data. இதெல்லாம் பண்ணாங்கன்னா, the time comes at the cost of something else. What is that something else? Maybe children's learning outcomes. Maybe subtraction and tracking data. Maybe அதுக்கு பதிலா நம்ம lesson plan க்கு பதிலா have a skill chart mechanism where you are saying இந்த childக்கு இது தெரியல, இது தெரியும், இது தெரியல. Focus on that. That is your lesson plan. What should you teach? What the child doesn't know. Imagine that you have like 8 skills you need to achieve by 3rd standard. Some 8 skills that you are going to track. Which child knows, which child doesn't know. That is your job. That is your lesson plan. Simplify some things. Don't be so efficient in implementation of certain things. Maybe it will become more efficient in implementing other things. So India is a complex country. So the data shows us something. But earlier I would get very upset with the government system for not resolving certain problems. Now I'm very worried. We are at the bottom, so we continue to do. I'm worried whether that will lead to more negative results. Because if you see, at least the last 10 years, I think the government has been extraordinary amount of effort. Tamil Nadu, my problem with Tamil Nadu is not the fact that the government is not moving. My problem with Tamil Nadu is moving too fast. ரொம்ப மூவ் பண்றாங்க. Every 2 days ஒரு புது ஸ்கீம் லான்ச் பண்றாங்க. ஸ்கீம் லான்ச் பண்றாங்க. எந்த ஸ்கீமும் இம்ப்ளிமெண்ட் பண்றதுக்கு டைம் டீச்சர் வந்து டயர்ட் ஆயிட்டாங்க. I think doing less but doing it better. What is essential to focus பண்ணி அதுல பண்ணா I feel that is more useful. Sometimes I feel that the data also too much data. Maybe less data, more detailed wide. What are you collecting this data for? What will you do with this data? And using that, I know the national level you can't once collect the data once for this and again once for that. I can understand the reason. But I feel that sometimes it doesn't give you the why. And why is ultimately what we can do some action. Basically,
We also was talking about this when after just the temperature checking mechanism, in terms of what what we know that the country has been out. We know that there is something wrong. We don't know what is wrong. That's and that's what thing she can answer could be about the
so giving you that temperature very well. But sometimes what happens is people look at the temperature, you say that fellow has more temperature than this fellow, so therefore that fellow is worse. That is not the point. Do you have fever? Are you well? Are you not well? I think that if you look at broad picture, it does give us the fact that there is a lot more to be done in terms of basic skills. But over the years, I'm also seeing that when you give this shock treatment to the government, for example, today there was this big article that came, that screaming out with this big saying that when you look at this, people do not read the rest of it. Tamil Nadu students score poorly basic reading skills after the fact. Compared to all India. All India also was not doing very well. Tamil Nadu definitely had issues, definitely. But the point is, the response to something like this becomes do more. Instead of, are you doing what you're doing already well? Do better versus do more. Sometimes I think part of the Tamil Nadu problem is not the lack of doing, at least. My analysis right now is that we are doing too much. We need to slow down, stop, go back, and do what is important and drop some things. Stop doing a few things. I think we'll see better results.
What is that your government needs something or better something especially with the backdrop of taking and early take the chart of the
I think overall, what ASER is doing. I think there is also something that as an ecosystem that we battle when it comes to Tamil Nadu and learn outcomes is that we have a strong sense of belief that we have been doing well for so long. Like if you generally talk in the ecosystem of public service, Tamil Nadu learning is fine. Tamil Nadu gave the problem. We have other problems in the I think what data has been recently tested and what ASER will also tell us is that the problems in Tamil Nadu are not so different when it comes to quality of education. We can see better as an infrastructure, but maybe giving us the false sense of the placebo effect, almost that things are happening where it looks nice. But the fact is that what are children learning? What is it that they're taking away from 8 to 10 years of education day in and day out? And I think that is something that we have to fight with the ecosystem, largely by to build a lot more awareness around Tamil Nadu still needs a lot of interventions to improve the quality. And as I said, it's not, I don't think about a lot of interventions. I think it's about trying to cut down the noise, really looking at what is affecting teacher teaching time, what is affecting time on task for children, and how can we really maximize it, right? So one of the key things is definitely curriculum. Curriculum continues to remain a key pillar that we need to be able to look at what are the basic or what are these gateway skills, critical skills that are essential for children to build, and we work our way forward from them. I think one thing that is both through nationally and also in Tamil Nadu is that we have about 90 to 92% of our students which are multi-grade, right? Some of these notions get taught at times, but somehow it doesn't get spoken about as such. What typically happens in a multi-grade classroom, the teacher is teaching grade 1, a teacher is teaching grade 2 and grade 3 within the same 4 walls, right? So when we take a textbook, I have a grade 1 textbook, I have a grade 2 textbook, I have a grade 3 textbook, and I have to teach all 3, but I still get only 1 teaching period. I'm not getting 3 periods to teach to children differently, right? So what is an elegant solution when such a problem exists? Now, multi-grade as a problem is not going to go away because from a pupil-teacher ratio, it's logged at 30:1. So as long as there are 30 students, 25 students, I'm going to place 1 or 2 teachers at school. So if that is the reality, what do I really need to do with my curriculum, right, to make it work for children? And I think something that the government has been really looking at is making it work. How can we make it level-based? One of the key aspects of the enumerator mission has been to make the learning level-based, where we provide children learning as to what they need, as opposed to how old they are. Now, if a child at grade 3 is not able to read letters, let's first build the skill of reading letters before we teach them sentences, make them read a paragraph. So I think a huge part about reducing the inefficiency, cutting down the noise, and improving the implementation efficiency of the system is about
rationalizing this correctly, being able to navigate it a little bit more fluently in the early years, so that the focus is on building those strong foundations for children. How can we ensure today that by grade 3, when the child walks out and goes into grade 4, they are able to do 2 digits of factor? How can I ensure that 95, 98% of my children can do 2 digits of factor and they can read 5, 6 sentences, so that they're able to navigate what lies ahead of the schooling years? I think that has been one key focus for the mission as well. I think the second is reducing administrative burden. Right? As Sir rightly pointed out, one of the key challenges that the government teacher has is that the teacher roughly fills about 96 registers within the study, and there are about 96 registers that school teachers are expected to fill. Now, if I have to fill 96 registers that teach 15 children in my classroom, imagine the time that is spent on teaching and the time that is spent on filling it. Right? And one of the key push that the department has also undertaken is that they have gone ahead and abolished a series of registers. Like there was a recent government order as well on that. I'm not able to recollect the exact number, but the idea is that right now the teachers are expected to maintain 3 outcome-based registers, and the rest of it is all sort of abolished from maintenance, so that the teachers can really start focusing on the learning activities. That is the second piece. And I think the third piece that becomes critical is talking more about skills and competencies, even be it in training, be it in the communication that goes, talking more, keeping the focus on the outcomes, as opposed to keeping the focus on syllabus completion or whether the lessons were taught or not taught. And towards that, 2 key shifts have happened in the way things are implemented. One is that an interesting, again, feature of primary schools is that typically in my middle school or in a high school or a higher secondary school, a teacher is a subject teacher. So they teach 4 classes, which means they teach 28 periods. I have 12 periods of planning time. And outside of those 12 periods, sometimes 2 to 5 periods are my substitute period, etc., that I contribute for the school, which means I get some planning time during my working hours, right? But a primary school teacher has no such luxury. The primary school teacher is expected to teach from the morning till the students leave. They teach through the day, and they need to come next day and they need to repeat the same thing. So where will the teacher plan? Where will they plan for 5 lessons a day? Will they plan after they go? Are they expected to go outside their working hours to make education happen? These are important questions because these are challenges that plague the teacher. There are not enough people to understand the problems that the teachers have. Right? And one key feature to enable this to happen is that the department has now built a community of practice through the cluster trainings. Cluster trainings were happening even before. It's not a new feature in Tamil Nadu. It has happened before. But the key shift has been to acknowledge that teachers don't get planning time and give them sufficient planning time during the cluster training. So how can I use a time in a month to set aside and plan and set goals for the month ahead? Where are my children today? And hence, what do I need to teach in the next month? And what are the goals I'm going to set for the month? This is what happens every month with the teacher. And we believe that once the rhythm and as Sir was saying, once the implementation efficiency in Tamil Nadu will naturally, improve the way and the fidelity with which this happens, we expect to see shifts in the way teaching and learning starts happening in the school. And I think these are some critical systemic factors that currently bottleneck time and task for children. At the end of the day, what do we really need with children, right? We need children to engage with learning more. We need to increase the time spent on learning activities more inside the classroom. If today or if yesterday in a multi-grade classroom, children were spending only 1/3 of their time because teacher has to teach the 3 grades, how can I make it at least 2/3? How can I improve the time that children spend learning skills that are relevant to their proximal zone of learning as opposed to learning that is something alien to them? I think that is core at what the mission is trying to address, and hopefully we will see some reversal of the trend in the upcoming years. But definitely, I think these are some early signs to start cutting down the noise and focus on implementing it better rather than adding more layers to the interventions that the department is planning. I think I will leave it at that. And
Actually, I will just take off on that 96 registers. The difference probably Tamil Nadu will also have 96 registers, Bihar will also have 96 registers. Except that in Tamil Nadu, the implementation efficiency is so good that the teacher will be forced to fill all the 96 registers, whereas in Bihar, they will probably not do most of the registers. So the time now really goes into the registers. Yes, that is not very much. I think that's the difference part.
Thank you so much. And I think it's started to be. Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Good morning. And I'm very, very happy to participate in this panel discussion. Only my big reservation here is, apart from whether I'm being heard, I could hear very little of what the earlier speakers said. There was very little clarity, and so I could very vaguely follow what was being said. I knew that Balaji was dealing out a lot of data and comparative data and making a lot of sense. And same the other person also. Unfortunately, I could follow very little. As I said, there was not much of clarity. So I would just like to speak on whatever I feel I need to say, that's all. And I wouldn't say that what I'm trying to say now is what was necessitated by the present study alone, the present 2022 ASER study. Now, these are issues that have been there over the period, ever since 2005, when ASER started. And the problem is not ASER study, but the problem is system itself. So I would like to say, it's not that in 10 minutes time, I don't know how much time I have, I'll be able to talk about all the problems, all the issues that over the years have piled up and have caused the present situation of very poor performance of our rural school children, particularly the government school children. Now, why do I want to say this? Because after all, why do we have assessments? Assessments should lead to diagnosis, and diagnosis should lead to treatment and cure, right? And if year after year, the same pattern is repeated, and the problems are, if not solved, in fact, they are accentuated in many cases. So I think these ASER studies, comparative as well as comparative across the country, across the states, as well as comparative over the period, where particularly in Tamil Nadu, I don't see much of a big difference in the performance, particularly in the achievement of children in rural schools, particularly government schools. And definitely, I'm not in any way saying that government schools are not performing as well as private schools are, because all the data very clearly show that there's very little difference between the performance of government schools and private schools. So if at all there is any lesson that emerges from this study, it should completely, disincentivize our parents spending money on private schools and sending them there. Or I don't know whether private tuitions have the same kind of an impact. So I'm not very sure about that. So where does the fault lie? The system is flawed. The pedagogy is flawed. Evidently, the policies that lead to this are flawed. And so we need to fix most of this. And so a very broad-based discussion, this ASER must generate. We must involve people from all areas and ask very fundamental questions. Why are not our children learning? Why are our children performing so badly in mathematics or in Tamil or in English? Why is this happening? And where do we stand? Pedagogy is very badly flawed. So what is the kind of pedagogy that is needed that will be able to fix the system? So I really don't pretend that I will be able to, reel out the solutions for all these. But I would definitely say that there are many things. Vaguely, I could hear a few sentences here and there when the previous two speakers were presenting their points of view. And from there, whatever little I could gather, also I would like to present along with this. So I think Balaji was talking about the kind of the pedagogical system, and he also mentioned the weight of the curriculum. Now, the weight of the curriculum, which the teachers also moan about. But one important thing that we need to talk about is the complete lack of accountability. I'm not sure, I'm not qualified to talk about the situation in other states. But as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned, as far as Tamil Nadu government schools are concerned, I would definitely say that accountability must be fixed. Accountability on the teachers, accountability on the HM, the headmaster or headmistress, accountability on the bureaucracy, educational bureaucracy. All these need to be fixed. Now we have absolutely no system of accountability. If children just don't perform, who is to pay the price for that? Or who is to be questioned? Who is to be asked to answer? There is no answering. If children in a class, in many of our classes, we see this, say in Tamil or in mathematics, if 50% of the children, say in class 5, cannot read a second grade, second standard text, isn't there somebody who must be held responsible for this? Is there anything like a remedial teaching? So I think there's nothing like a remedial teaching in our system. So who are the children who are unable to cope? So you really need to hold their hand, and you really need to put in much greater investment in time and in attention and a different methodology of teaching if necessary. If 50% of the children cannot cope, it is not just a small percentage. Half the class is failing. 8th standard children are not able to do a simple arithmetic. So how do you feel the responsibility? Now, I really feel now this must be brought into the system. If children are not able to cope, then the teacher must spend more time teaching each of those children. After 4 o'clock, your 4 o'clock is not the time your responsibility lies. Your responsibility ends. Your responsibility ends when every child has learned, when every child has reached the level that the class is supposed to attain. But then there's absolutely no accountability. Unfortunately, from the data that we get from ASER, which show that private schools are not performing much better. Now, there is a myth that in private schools, there is a complete control, there is an accountability. Oh, I believe I have just 5 minutes more. Okay, so I don't have much time to go to anything. So I would just mention that accountability must be brought into the system. The pedagogical system must completely change. That is, when there was a time all over the world, elementary classes are not taught with blackboard, chalk and blackboard method. It is not just you write down something on the blackboard and ask the children to memorize and repeat. That is not the way elementary classes are taught. There was a time in Tamil Nadu, we did an experiment with activity-based learning. Some of us looked into the system and we felt that system was much better than the one that was prevailing, which this multi-grade system also, this activity-based learning system also involved multi-grade system, also involved peer learning, also learned the teacher being a little away and making the children teach each other. All these methods were mixed. And we all felt it was, at least I felt and some of us felt, that this activity-based learning was a very, very welcome system. But that definitely put the teacher's role in a different mode. And my guess is it was the activity-based learning was completely sabotaged, mainly by the teacher's interests. And also the bureaucracy was co-conspirator. So we need to ask basic questions. These are not tinkering. You cannot tinker the system and fix it. And that is why year after year after year, such poor performance is seen. So we must have the courage. We must have the courage to talk to the bureaucrats, talk to the government system, and make them address these issues. And also see that narrow teacher interests or narrow other interests, they come in the way of completely sabotaging this idea of changing the teaching system. The pedagogy must be completely changed. It is not a question of whether a little bit of change here, a little bit of change there. No, we have to move on to an activity-based learning as it was envisaged in 2008, 2009, and sabotage. And I'm not saying that was a perfect system, not at all. It's some kind of an activity-based system where novel methods are used. And more than anything else, accountability must be fixed. If in a classroom, out of 30 children, 20 children cannot understand, or 10 children cannot understand, that classroom, the teacher or the HM cannot wash their hands out. So this is not our responsibility. This time we covered these lessons. We claim that we have finished the syllabus. The whole thing is over. No, it must be demonstrated, particularly to parents, that your child is able to attain the task, the level fixed for that particular class in a particular subject. That must be proved. And if that is not proved, then there must be different methods, more time must be spent, remedial teaching must be given a very, very important role. And my only hope in this is that today, Tamil Nadu government has put in school management systems, school management committees in every government school. And in these schools, a parental body, mainly parents, but a couple of local bodies, members, all these members are there. And every month they are supposed to meet and deliberate on what is needed for the school and follow this out. Now, this is one system of local accountability for government school system. Teachers, HM, well, there are constant complaints that there's woeful shortage of teachers. Yes, if it is there, that must be fixed. But there are also schools where there are surplus of teachers. So are those schools performing well? I don't know. And so these kind of questions must be asked, and a pedagogy that suits children who are unable to cope, who come from first generation learning families, who cannot afford to spend money for tuitions. It is for them that we have these government schools. So these government schools must in a way be integrated into the community from where the children come. Now there is no contact whatsoever. There is a complete alienation between the teacher and the community. How can, okay, so I'm being warned that the warning bell has struck. So I've stopped here, but a part of this solution is integrating the school, the teaching community with the community. So I will stop here because my time is out, but I would request our attention sites are set on absolute fundamentals. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, yeah, if there are, if we try to really pause the bunch because and down to have it take away because easier, much easier and things like that. And so these are the key tests we saw. One is that enrollment has increased throughout, and that's a great sign. And so right now, governments are already looking into the priority. The Commonwealth especially is also carried very similar. So in the next couple of years, it will see quite a bit of improvement. And also there is no urgency for catch up, like I already said. Here we reverse from the 2018 so maybe the next year that will be for that get back and compare and of course this data is also influence people in policy what changes, which is not a big change, but also smaller changes that are also said about making sure that the registry we really need big gas both into the policy papers that government has taken up with implementing it. So I think we also do the data make sure that the next year is better. If there's any questions that you would like to ask. Thank you.
Questions are coming. Yeah, questions are coming.
That's what significantly.
10%.
The shift from private schools to government schools. The total numbers that really there are this trend is continuing, where from private schools to government schools, and the total also has
See, all India it's about 8% increase. Tamil Nadu it's almost like 10%.
But what we saw, Pratham was working for schools here, and from those schools, one of the increases that they said with the schools is the charging money in the pandemic. So most of the children shifted also because of more economical choice.
Like pre-primary also, the enrollment numbers have dramatically increased. When like we're looking at 2018 or something, we're talking about like 20%, 12%. Age 3, age 4, out of pre-primary. Now the numbers are like 0.8 and 1%. Almost everybody is doing this.
So, sir, இப்போ பொதுவாக பார்த்தீங்கன்னா டீச்சர்ஸ் வந்து அந்த சம்மர் வெக்கேஷன் முடிச்சுட்டு ரீஓபன் வரும்போது அவங்க சொல்ற விஷயம் வந்து டிஃப்ரெண்ட் படிச்சுட்டு தான்
leave போயிட்டு எல்லாம் மறந்துட்டாங்க. Some laws இருக்கும்.
Some laws is very standard. Worldwide is
So இந்த டைம்ல நம்ம கவர்மெண்ட் நீங்க என்ன சஜஷன்ஸ் என்ன பண்றீங்களா? சம்மர் கேம்ப் மாதிரி என்ன பண்றதோ இல்ல டியூஷன்ஸ் லீவ்
என்னோட ஜெனரல் ஃபீலிங் வந்து ரொம்ப எஃபிஷியன்டா இருக்கிற சிஸ்டம்ஸ் வந்து தப்பான அந்த டைரக்ஷன் போனோம். ரொம்ப ஃபாஸ்டா ஓடுற இந்த டைரக்ஷன் ஓடிக்கிட்டு புது inefficient திருப்பி தூரம் திருப்பி கொடுக்கும். So sometimes efficiency order direction in the direction of is important. If you are going in the wrong direction and you are doing it very well, it can be very dangerous. In a big country, it is not easy. You know, building கட்டணும்ன்றது கவர்மெண்ட்ல ஆர்டர் போட்டு பார்த்து பில்டிங் சேலஞ்ச் செக் பண்ணி பார்க்கறது ஈஸி. குழந்தைங்க வந்து சப்ட்ராக்ஷன் கத்துக்கணும். ஃபர்ஸ்ட் கேள்வி வந்து நீங்க கவர்மெண்ட் சிஸ்டம் மட்டும் இல்லை, கவர்மெண்ட் சிஸ்டம் பிரைவேட் சிஸ்டம்ல whenever I meet teachers, nobody says I don't want my children to learn. Not learn. It's not, that's not a goal. They're not trying actively to stop them from learning. So they are doing a whole bunch of things which prevents them from learning. Ideally, they also want their children to learn. So what is going wrong is not such a clear-cut direction thinking. Building cut no, drinking water cut no, toilet cut no. Toilet cut no is easy. Toilet thanni no is not so easy. Toilet cleaner is not so easy. And that is a cleaner. So bringing that ultimate workability there, right? That requires a lot of details. Problem again, in a more efficient, now I'm actually less surprised that the Nadu is doing that. I used to be very surprised earlier. I'm actually less surprised because on many of the infrastructure fronts, Tamil Nadu is doing well. And because they are efficient, they are very proud of their efficiency. They implement wrong things very efficiently. And when you implement wrong things efficiently, it correct things to be done. Just because you are so efficient in one thing, in inefficient efficient like cell phone occupies so much time that people don't have time to talk to each other. Because cell phone that goes away. This is efficiently occupying your time. The more efficient Facebook and Google become, the less people will talk to each other. Not because they are trying to stop them, just because that was happening on its own. This is happening with direction. So whenever something happens, there is a lot of clarity and direction. Sometimes unexpectedly, a whole bunch of good things will go away. Nobody wanted to set up industries to pollute our air, but that came as a consequence. Now that is not easy to solve, right? So, world unfortunately seems to be more complicated than we think. So we think they're doing something good in one direction. Sometimes it's negative consequences, much more, and too dangerous. And in the education system, even the pattern, other consequences. இப்ப டீச்சர் ஸ்கூலுக்கு வரதுல சில பேர் சொன்னாங்கன்னா உடனே 4 ரேம்ப் அப்ச்சு இது போட்டு ட்ராக்கிங் போட்டோம்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன், நிறைய அந்த ட்ராக்கிங் நடக்கும். வரவங்க கூட அந்த ட்ராக்கிங் பண்ணிட்டு கடைசியில வரவங்க கிளாஸ் நடத்தாங்க. ஸோ வரவங்க இன்க்ரீஸ் ஆக மாட்டாங்க. Those are the things to look at and observe. I think just a little bit of slowing down to understand what is happening makes things better. We are very fast world. Things happen so fast that it's very hard to figure out. Like if you think about the lockdown, there is no reason to put the clocks. When we created a mess by having a 2-year lockdown, there we are. All of the values anyway, let's go to the. So maybe going to slow down, less efficient, we could have probably saved a lot of suffering. So sometimes we have to think hard about very huge efficiency leading to huge problems.
So before like state like Tamil Nadu, that community is more proactive, but when it comes to education, are you not funded or you are not able to school yeah. So when it comes to learning outcome or learning or simple arithmetic of learning, another issue is where community parents at the end of the work demand and supply.
for long time. The demand and supply will be visible. When it comes to learning of the phenomena, we are not able to either communicate to the parent or parent are not able to demand from the school. So how this can be overcome or managed?
It's a very good point. We tried some things where schools analysis not money. Parents would still chat my love start. But the expectation is that a parent will go to the school and demand and ask. Because the parent in the school they are school private school. So what we do versus what is the consequence? Not so easy to understand. But parents where a government school function level demand second, the alternative tuition class. Yeah. So those are also things that they will do. Maybe that's also not a bad thing, they may probably learn. But broad level, this you're right, it's not that visible. Making learning levels visible is not easy. School is also not easy to transfer. So you go to school and then other point observe permission permission not so clear. So
now this IT area and management has especially the government of any institutions, and government has initiated IT area. In the other building tech will help community mobilization within home or learning village. And or
see, government can facilitate something that starts on. But community mobilization, I don't think government can do, honestly. If government runs the government schools properly, focuses on that, makes it better, I think then they are doing the best that they can. Community mobilization usually happens against the government. Yeah, usually I think one. But I think in a video, just mobilize come and protest against me so that I can provide water. Well, if you want to provide water, provide the water. Why are you asking the government to take up community mobilization? Community mobilization is an activity usually against the government. Usually when government gets in, community mobilization sincerely doesn't happen. Something will happen. Okay. It will deflect the problem from the government to some extent. But ultimately, we want the problem solved. Institutional problems are not. Government has to be judged. Community level the problems are not. If the problem doesn't get solved, somewhere communities will get to it. Like, why are there private schools, low-end private schools in many places? This area is this area is midday people are smart. So they will make an informed decision based on the available resources. I know that they are not taking an informed decision on reading levels or subtraction, but that's a little far away. In a case, subtraction area. In a case, படிக்க நான் போயிட்டு படிக்க தெரியுமா அதுக்கான ஸ்கூல் வச்சிருக்கேன். நீங்க உங்க வேலை சரியா செய்யலன்னு எனக்கு தெரியும். It takes some more time. இங்கிலீஷ் பேச தெரியுதா இல்லையான்றது மெஷர் பண்ண முடியும். பேசுறாங்க, தமிழ்ல பேசிட்டு இருக்காங்க, நம்ம படிக்க தெரியல. ரொம்ப எடுத்துக்காட்டினீங்கன்னா, ஓ நான் படிக்க தெரியல, 2 தடவை பசங்க போட்டு அடிப்பாங்க. ஏன்னா சரியா படிக்க தெரியும். 3வது என்ன பண்ணுவாங்கன்னா வேற டியூஷன் கிளாஸ் கொடுப்பாங்க. 4வது பிரைவேட் ஸ்கூல். That's what they do. So it is something to fight against. Is a slightly bigger challenge, not a simple answer. No, I know what you're asking. I would also like there was a nice answer. I just want to mention answer. We tried something, it's not working.
The reason also because they are pretty great and today one is so എല്ലാ പാരന്റ്സിനെ வந்து இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் தெரியல, இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் தெரியுதுங்கிறது most of தெரிய வராது. தெரியாத பேரண்ட்ஸ் எல்லாரையும் ஒன்னா சேர்த்து இந்த மாதிரி இம்ப்ளிமெண்ட் பண்ணுறது ஸ்கூல் ஆல்வேஸ் கம்ப்ளீட் உங்க வேலைக்கு தெரியல. ஸோ அதை நீங்க மாற்றுறது பேரண்ட்ஸ் பி மோர் பவர்ஃபுல். நீங்க parents are powerful or nothing. If they try
to change schools, so they'll put them in a tuition class.
The power is not the parent.
But I think it's a little bit more complex. It's like in the sense that there are two parts to this, and I think Vasanthi ma'am pointed out accountability. Like to fix accountability, let's say on the teacher, on the HM, on the school. What would be a potential institutional mechanism? Like institutional mechanism is that way there is no incentive to actually understand and publish and rank rate schools, rank rate children on learning levels. There's no incentive, which is where the role of the CSO has become a lot more critical. Role for us has become a lot more critical. Where we are able to have a public development. See, this is fact. I mean, this is temperature. If solutions institutions have to come together, CSOs have to come together. So I think it brainstorm. And probably, as Sir said, we don't need new solutions. What we need is a calm and clear focus mind as to what outcomes we want to achieve and what will get me there. Right? As opposed to keeping continuous innovating new solutions to problems that have been for in very plain terms, very new. They have been there for it's not none of this problem is new. Solutions are also there then effectively over time. And I think in the same way, when we look at accountability from institutional perspective, accountability is better from a demand perspective if such a demand can even be generated. Given that learning is a little bit more abstract, learning is a little bit more non-linear, as ma'am pointed out. I think it is important to equip the parents in a way where it becomes not something very complex and it's almost like myth-busting. It upload complicated career. Every number of the health to one person always demystify it a little bit for them. Be more empowered to know that something is not, happening. My child needs some blame. I will search before I suggest. Right? The idea is that how do we diagnose quickly? How do we equip parents to diagnose quickly so that they can support? Number one, health problem in the vice law, health parents. Different children learn at different speed, but broadly, based on research and a lot of how brain development, cognitive development, and all, we have broad metrics. Children may be above, that's perfectly fine. But something to tell me that, okay, I think I need a checkup. Right? Where will I get that feeling? And the feeling was building group play. It's not going to tell you. School is not tell you. Timing or not tell you. But if they don't miss up the learning or the quality of miss up because it's not visible. I think unintended consequences may be many in a complex system, like they may go to private, they may go to tuition. But the idea is that do they know that I need a doctor? Are parents able to say today that I need a doctor? I need a learning outcome doctor. Right? I think that will be a very critical step in making them more informed the way they go about.
Another reason we look at this picture where we are saying that 2-digit subtraction derima big mark. 3-digit by 1-digit multiplication derima. So you break it up. They may not know each one, but once that happening continues. See, in the math area, that doesn't give you an answer. This sentence possibility is a much more easy to understand and easy to remedy activity. Right? So once they know that, then hopefully the demand gets built. But by the time, hopefully the system will also be active. So right now the system is giving you data you are a bad student, you are a good student. So what do I do if I'm a bad student? Maybe I'm not capable. They should react now. The first reaction is, so they blame the child. That's why the moment you point this out, parent, school at least teacher, so the first point is the blame goes there. Then they say teacher is but it is so big a problem that after that you can't solve it. If you break it down into smaller, like fever, fever, you say that we must do some action, which is not a big problem. The moment we start, you know it to be. And between a 100 degree temperature and 140 degree temperature, you're going to see this. So just like that, you need to know that, okay, there is a problem that is brewing. And if that becomes the way for people to talk, today the school doesn't talk that way. So the parents also don't talk that way. So that push in the school system, I think, will be something that we can do. If we do that, which is, by the way, not many teachers are going to be happy with it. You are telling the teacher to say, I have achieved this, not achieved this, and the parent report card. It's not easy.
Thank you so much for joining us. Any more updates you want?